tangerines are finally starting to turn a little bit orange here. I'm hoping we have a couple hundred tangerines this year. I think these are the ones that they call cactus zinnia. I think there's only one or two of these, maybe one more down here. Very interesting. So this is probably my last flush of zinnias for the year. I really just planted these so I could hide some vegetables behind them. I was told I couldn't grow vegetables in the front yard, but I still do. I just kind of make sure that I hide them with flowers now. So you got all these pretty flowers, and then behind them there's some lacinato kale, some blue dazzling kale. I think that's broccoli. There's some mustard greens and a little broccoli plant back there. There's some purple sweet potato, some pumpkin. And then over here, this has been really strange. There's been like a rabbit or something digging around in here. Not sure what it's doing. Also a bunch of fire ants in here early on. But there's some collard greens. I think these are the cabbage collards, the Morris heading variety that form a cabbage head. There's also quite a few leeks in here. These leeks are ones that I started from seed an entire year ago, and I left a few of them in the seed tray because I just had too many, and they just kind of sat in the seed tray for 12 months, and then I finally stuck some of them in the ground this year, and they're taking off and doing great. This nasturtium here should be blooming pretty soon. Back to Primitive Organic Garden today. I know it's been a little while since I did an update. I've been very, very busy. Purple bell pepper crop is coming in really, really well this year. Unfortunately, I've had quite a few plants where the branches snapped due to the weight of the fruits. This one's an example of that. It's really cold and windy out, so I'm just going to do a pretty quick video update, and we'll do a little bit more later on when it's a little warmer, another day. Some of the broccoli is doing great. This plant doing really well. This plant doing really well. This purple kale is doing really well. So this is a new one that I just put in a couple weeks ago, whereas this over summered. So I think they're the same variety. It's like a dazzling blue kale or something like that, but it's interesting because usually kale won't over summer here. You know, we get quite a few days that are above 100 degrees, and you also get really intense caterpillar pressure in the summer. So kale is something you usually have to replant every year. This plant has managed to make it a whole year. Last year it looked just like this little seedling, and now it's this massive kale tree. You can see this is the base here. It eventually toppled over under its own weight, and now there's all these little kale shoots coming off of it. It's very cool looking. I've never seen a kale plant get this big before, other than the perennial kale varieties like the walking stick kale, but this is not that. It's just a very very healthy plant. Caterpillar pressure is over for the year. Now that it's getting to be cold weather, the leaves are nice and tender. I ought to take some of this home today and cook up some of it. I don't know if you can really see the scale of that plant there, but it's massive. Still have quite a lot of zinnias that keep reseeding themselves despite the fact that it's now too cold for them. They do know that winter is coming because now they're starting to bloom at much smaller heights than they normally would. Usually in the spring and summer, zinnias will grow 2 feet tall before they bloom. And now you got some that are like 6 inches tall and already blooming, so that must be some type of temperature based signaling for flowering, or it could be photoperiod based now that the days are a little shorter, but our day length doesn't change that drastically. This is some more broccoli over here. It's looking pretty good. This is my favorite color of zinnia, kind of like a salmon color. quite a lot of peppers still. These are the Hungarian sweet peppers. They did really well this year. This is a persimmon tree, I think. More peppers than I can keep up with. So this purple bell pepper, the other day it had 6 peppers on one branch, and I was worried the branch was going to snap, so I tied it up with some twine. I don't eat these when they're purple because they're real bitter and kind of gross, but if you let them ripen, they go from purple to green and then to red, and once they're red, they're nice and sweet and juicy. But yeah, this is probably one of the best pepper crops I've had in years. Some more peppers. Strawberry plant that should be loaded with fruit next year in the spring. This is a purple cauliflower. It's a beet that's over a year old. This is a really interesting bell pepper because this is over a year old now. I planted this as a seed in the spring of 2020, and I accidentally left this thing outside last winter. And we had a couple days that were in the upper 20s, and it died. You know, it's a pepper plant, right? So frost kills it. The thing was completely dead. It was like a sad little, just brown twig. And then in the middle of the summer this year, it started to make new shoots from the dead. This was all that was left, like, in the middle of the winter last year. It was just this, like, dead stump. And I would have pulled it, but I decided to keep it so that I would have to look at it every day, and it would be a reminder of, you know, I forgot to bring this inside, and it died. So I was just keeping the dead stump in this pot to kind of torture myself and remind myself not to do that again. And then lo and behold, the thing actually resprouted. But, I mean, it looked dead as an absolute doornail. So that was a very strange experience for me. I was convinced by all accounts that it was completely dead. It had no signs of life. And then it started to come back. So I'll make sure to bring it indoors this winter, and then it'll be hopefully a nice plant next year too. Bringing peppers indoors is always a little tricky because sometimes they get like weird insect issues from overwintering them inside, like aphids and viruses. But yeah, so that's a very interesting pepper plant there. This raised bed is going to be mostly strawberries and onions for the foreseeable future. I'm trying to let the strawberries propagate themselves and fully establish, and then eventually this whole bed will be strawberries. There's some Egyptian walking onion in here. There's some green beans that I planted just mainly for fertilizer, just to kind of improve the soil quality. Some clover in here that I don't mind. There's a couple peppers, but it's mostly going to be onions and strawberries for the foreseeable future. There's a few herbs over here, some chives, some oregano. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this raised bed here is progressing. This raised bed here is a lot newer. This mostly has spinach in it right now. There's a little bit of lettuce. There's one little kohlrabi plant. I had to replant the spinach 3 times because I planted it too early and it was just too hot for it. Looks like there's some volunteer mustard back here. But yeah, hopefully this will be quite a bit of spinach to eat this winter as it gets cooler. There's some eggplant here that is very beautiful to look at, but I don't really eat a lot of eggplant anymore. There was one night that I made eggplant parmesan, and I think I ate like 3 of these, and I ended up like wheezing and having asthma symptoms. Too much nightshade, I guess, is not good in one sitting. So maybe I should just eat one of these next time. But they're very beautiful. It's just I'm a little sketched out about eating eggplant now. Very healthy plant though. I mean, it's a massive plant there. Eggplant can be perennial in frost-free climates, but obviously not the frost-free climate. Another pepper over here. These are really nice sized Hungarian sweet peppers. Here's a kohlrabi. This is a purple broccoli. Some volunteer carrots in this pot with the oregano. I got quite a bit of work to do back here. It doesn't really look pretty at the moment. This is a purple broccoli that got nipped by some mice or whatnot. Here's another purple broccoli. The nasturtiums don't like hot weather. I found that out. It's my first year growing them. But now that it's getting cooler, the nasturtiums are starting to come back. The olive tree didn't grow a whole lot this year, but that's alright. This is going to be strawberries at some point too. You can see they're starting to establish. I stuck a pot of strawberries in here and just let the runners root. This is pretty. It's a Mexican sunflower. This volunteered here as well. There's one that I planted in the front yard, and I guess birds must have moved some seed around. It's pretty late in the year for one of these because they really like hot weather, but these seem to be enjoying them. Pretty cold out here for bees, but they're working. Yeah, nice Mexican sunflower plant there. Weather's cooling down and we're finally starting to get some fruit set on the tomatoes again, but unfortunately they are covered in leaf-footed bugs, which I hate. I've heard that like bluebirds apparently will help to pick off leaf-footed bugs, but I mean the numbers are just out of control. So I need to start harvesting most of these tomatoes when they're green and just letting them ripen inside so that the leaf-footed bugs don't cause them to rot. I noticed that leaf-footed bugs have a really strong and offensive odor when I mess with them. Some people don't notice that. I don't notice stink bugs, but leaf-footed bugs I really dislike. Here's another strawberry that's hopefully going to establish in this little makeshift raised bed here. I've seen a few figs on the fig trees, but they haven't really done much in terms of changing color or ripening. I don't know anything about figs. I've only had these trees for a couple of, like maybe 2 years. As you can see, there's some figs on there, but they don't seem to be ripening, unfortunately. Anybody knows about figs, let me know why they're just sitting there not changing color. These grapes are getting pruned this winter. They have just taken over the apple tree. You can't even see the apple tree. The grapes go all the way up into these oaks. There's grapevines 40 feet off the ground that I'm never going to pick. So they are definitely getting pruned this winter. I want that apple tree to hopefully flower for the first time next year in the spring. This goji berry has just continually put out fruit the last year. Seems like it flowers and fruits constantly, which is pretty cool, but you can't give these things away. Nobody seems to like them. They do have a pretty intense, like bell pepper type of taste to them, but both are really healthy. This peach tree has doubled in size in 5 months, which is really cool. Unfortunately, the other one that I put in at the exact same time, exact same variety from the same nursery, has not grown at all. So that's really strange. This one's in almost full shade. The other one gets quite a bit more sun, and this is the one that doubled in size. This is now bigger than the peach tree that's next to it that's an entire year older. This one went in 2 years ago, and it's slightly smaller than this one here. Maybe I should prune this. Not really sure. This is my other olive tree. This one has grown more than the first one, but it also went in the ground earlier. The loquats are in full flower right now, and they smell amazing. I see the bees out here working them quite often. I come in here and take a whiff once in a while. I mean, they're just unbelievably fragrant flowers. You could totally make loquat flowers into a perfume. There should be a lot of fruit this spring. I had quite a bit of fruit last spring, and something got it. I don't know if it was squirrels or a person. I'm not really positive what happened, but next spring when it's loquat season, I'm going to put a hammock up out here and just sleep out here, and nothing will be getting my loquats next spring. There's going to be hundreds and hundreds of fruits. I don't know if you can really see the size of these 2 trees. Yeah, I'm excited for that. The grapes were really disappointing this year, but I also haven't ever pruned them. They're just now going on 3 years old. I think if I prune them this year really well, maybe next year I'll get a decent harvest. The chickens have finally learned to use their ladder, I suppose. I need to come up with names for these, so if you have any ideas, let me know. I'm pretty excited about this coop I built. It was a massive amount of work. I didn't want to spend any money, so I got 14 pallets and took all the pallets apart into various pieces and reassembled all the pallet wood into a chicken coop that I designed, and it's got nesting boxes. You can move it if you want to. It's got wheels. The back opens up so that you can harvest the eggs without having to go into the coop. It seems like it's going to be pretty cool. I'm excited. Need to figure out what to plant in this flower box for winter. I'm not really an expert when it comes to flowers. This flower box was all kinds of flowers earlier this summer, poppies and marigolds and zinnias, and then it got taken over by ornamental sweet potato. But yeah, I'd like to plant something else here for winter. There's clover that I recently put along this fence line here. I think it's a perennial clover. I want to say it wasn't Dutch white. It was I think it starts with an L. Anyway, it's a perennial clover, and I'm hoping that it outcompetes a lot of the weeds here. Weeds are really difficult to deal with along a fence line because it's hard to hoe and weed whack and all that. But yeah, so if this clover establishes itself, that should be good. There's also sweet peas, sugar snaps, all along the fence line that'll climb this fence for winter. There's still quite a bit of peppers in here. There's some purple bells. I think we looked at purple bells earlier today at the orchard. Now we're over at the annual gardens. There's sweet Hungarian peppers. I need to get some of those off the ground before they rot. I planted chard in here, but chard is really finicky. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 that sprouted. Quite a bit of clover in that area. If you recall, that was all zinnias earlier this summer. I left a couple of them. Some more peppers back here, some volunteer purple mustard and arugula, carrots that are left over from last winter, as well as new carrots. There's some collards back there. We'll go take a look in the backyard, take a closer look. There's some purple sweet potatoes I still need to harvest back here. I think I got water on the phone screen now, it's not letting me zoom. Those are purple sweet potatoes. That's a little farm dog there. Hey, farm dog. Hey, little farm. Hey, watch the peas, watch the peas. Don't damage the peas. She's a mess. She does a lot more damage in the garden than her dad ever did. I thought, see, doesn't care. I thought I had a raccoon tearing up parts of the garden. Turns out it was her. Her dad is pretty well behaved. He doesn't trample on plants very much. But Zinni is a little monster. All right, Dad will meet you in the backyard. This is another purple ornamental sweet potato. This one got quite large. I've had to prune this back multiple times this summer. Some pumpkin left over. All of this is purple sweet potato. That's going to be really interesting when I finally harvest that. A little bit of chard that managed to oversummer from last winter. I really need to do some work in this greenhouse this week. Get the greenhouse back in shape. A lot of this over here is just stuff that's been neglected. There's some beets and chard resprouting. There's leeks and clover, strawberry, random volunteer dill plant that's going to flower and seed, an eggplant that died, some more leeks, sunchokes that need to be harvested, more purple sweet potatoes. You can see a sweet potato flower there. There's an elderberry in here I need to plant. Some more leeks and tomatoes back there. This is a lemon that I'm not too impressed with. It's not a Meyer. It's just some like dwarf lemon. It's not a lemon bush, it is a lemon tree. It's not supposed to get too big though. You can see there's a couple on there. It didn't produce anything last year. This year it's got maybe 6 or 8 lemons on it. It doesn't look great, but it is what it is. This is some broccoli that, or maybe kohlrabi. No, this is broccoli. No, that's a kohlrabi. It really needs water. I never water anything. I'm such a lazy gardener.
Hey dogs, hey farm dogs. Hey big boy. Hey little dog.
This is ginger root that volunteered. Something must have been compost. Pretty cool. I'm gonna try to cover that for winter and see if it makes it. Oh buddy! It's always getting hurt. This is a nice leek from last year. Some arugula and purple mustard. He wants to go in the greenhouse where it's warm. It's really interesting how good their memory is. So he knows what the greenhouse is, and he knows that it's warmer in there than it is out here. And that's one of his favorite places to be. But, looks like there's some wasp activity here. Anyway, there's a lot of work to do back here. A lot of sweet potatoes to harvest. This is some basil that I'm going to prune and bring in the house. All of this is sweet potato. It's crazy. Sweet potato is really just a weed. This made tangerines last year, but it didn't make them until like December-ish. It's a very late flowering. I think it's a satsuma. Not really sure what to do about that either. Yeah, there's quite a lot of flowers on some of this sweet potato, which is interesting. Sweet potato leaves you can eat. I don't ever eat them though. This is a gigantic mustard plant that volunteered. Look at these avocado trees about to die in a month. They really don't like our cold winters. I say cold winters, but if it gets below, 30, it'll usually kill an avocado tree down to the roots. But they do sometimes sprout back the next spring. All this dope purple mustard in here. Daikons are ready to harvest. And some of these are big. The purple mustard and the daikons definitely outcompeted the collards and the cabbage. I really should be selling some of this stuff because I have way more than I can possibly eat or give away. Wow, I didn't even know these were sizing up yet. This is interesting because I didn't put any fertilizer down in this area. But I think I had thousands of like earthworms or something in here. And the soil is just really, really rich for some reason. I don't really put down much fertilizer when I plant, if any at all. I've kind of adopted that do-nothing farming method from the Japanese philosopher / rice farmer. Is it Mansuba Fukuoka? I probably mispronounced that, but the whole idea of cultivating ecosystems and then just sort of foraging rather than trying to plant things in neat little rows and tend to them. I kind of do more of the food forest model rather than the gardening or farming model. I don't really come out here and pull weeds. I don't put down fertilizer. I don't really water. I just sort of observe, and the things that tend to do well on their own, I give them a little extra help, and the things that don't do well, I just let them die. And so after 16 years of that, I kind of have a system where only the strongest plants survive, but they tend to do pretty well and take care of themselves. So these purple plum radishes I'm not impressed by, but Zinni has also done so much digging in here. She's destroyed a lot of these, unfortunately.
Yes, that was you that destroyed my purple plum radishes. Yes, I destroyed your radishes, Dad. I destroyed your radishes. I don't like radishes. They're kind of...
Really funny. I've never seen a dog eat radishes until I got her, and she actually ate a couple radishes last spring, which was pretty funny. Oh, wow, look at some weird wildflower. I don't know what this is, but it's pretty. Interesting. Maybe that's a marigold. So there's a squash I saw back here last week that I probably should have harvested. Look at that. Wow. Yes, you're a big squash, aren't you? There's a couple back here now, it looks like. It's really too late in the year for squash. But, don't let me stop you, squash plant. More mustard. It's just a sea of sweet potato back here. More mustard. Some kale, collards, and garlic. I'll probably be leaving these gardens in the next year or so, and it's going to be sad. I'm gardening back here 16 years. But, it's time to move on. I'll probably be moving into the orchard permanently at some point soon. Look at all this mustard. Some bell peppers. It's wild because everything gets more and more productive each year. The first year I gardened here, it was quite a struggle, especially doing everything organically. And the longer you do it, the more, like I said, you just develop these ecosystems that sort of just take care of themselves, and then all you have to do is come back here and harvest stuff. Collards and arugula and more collards. Yeah, I guess that's probably about it for today. Lots and lots of sweet potato. Probably time to start digging these. Maybe I'll do a purple sweet potato harvest video in a couple days.